So, Emma, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about the challenges of parenting when you don't own your house.
This episode is called Bodged Houses. Hello, Internet. Welcome back to the Crippen House. This is the podcast that's as welcome as a full night's sleep. You join us to chat about parenting with babies and toddlers here from our imaginary rabbit burrow below the ground. Cozy little hovel.
I was going to say, do we have sofas in the rabbit burrow?
Yep, made of dirt. Nice and cozy, squishy. Very autumnal. There's all the animals from Bambi lying around.
All the animals from Bambi
Yep.
fitting in a rabbit tunnel.
Yeah. So it's big. It's like a hobbit hole, but under you have to go down a trapdoor ladder under the soil.
Okay.
Yep. That's it. Anyway, if you're new here, we're a husband and wife. We do this little podcast together, hosting it. I'm Elliot. I'm the tall one that's afraid of heights.
And I'm Emma. I'm the short one who's not afraid of heights.
Do you have any fears?
Loud noises. I don't like fireworks.
Claustrophobia? Lifts?
I don't like lifts.
Trying to think if I have a lot of fears of animals in general.
Oh yeah, he's not a big fan of a lot of animals.
Not a big animal lover.
No. He used to tell me you were scared of dying alone, but he doesn't have this fear anymore.
Right, well, you know what's going on. We grab a topic and we dive into some conversation. You can pick and choose what episodes in any order. So welcome and let's get stuck in. Xbox achievement unlocked. Parenting level have we reached this week?
I actually have a story this week.
Very good. Go ahead.
For those who don't know, we're expecting our next baby rather soon. Our little girl Lily, she was sat in bed with me chatting away about the baby.
Yeah.
And we for a long time we said, when the baby comes, it's going to bring you a present.
Yeah, so we've discussed this on a previous episode when we were chatting about how we were preparing to go from 1 to 2. And we mentioned that we have this plan that we're going to give Lily a gift from the baby. Yeah.
What we didn't foresee in the conversation last night is, Lily was like, I need to give the baby a present. I'll give it some dummies wrapped up. And she has already wrapped up some dummies.
It's nice. She's really keen, really excited for the new baby.
Very excited. And then she's going, well, what's the baby going to get mummy and daddy? And I said, the baby doesn't have to get mummy and daddy anything. But she'll go, well, no, everybody has to get a present.
Oh, no.
Because she wants, so we're getting her a tablet, which she specified at the moment has to be blue with sparkles.
Okay.
So at least we're going to have to find a cover.
I think there's a correlation here to a certain character in Frozen.
There is,
that
yes.
she's a big fan of.
We're obsessed with her at the minute.
Yeah.
And she's going, well, we could ask if it could get you an orange tablet like Bingo. And I always go, I don't think Mummy needs a tablet. Well, you need something.
Oh,
baby has
she's
to
so
get everyone
fair,
a
isn't
gift.
she? She's like, everyone needs a present from the baby.
So
now we're going to have to buy us all presents.
That's what I said. So I said
dear.
to Elliot this morning, I was like, we're going to all have to get a gift from the baby.
And we're all going to have to give a gift to the baby as well, probably.
Yes, probably.
Yeah, I mean, Lily's already told me that we're going to make a cake for when the baby arrives.
Yes. Yes, she's very excited. She's got a lot of things
because
planned.
It's her birthday.
It's her birthday, which is true. It is the day she's born on. She's not wrong. Just as the baby could get
this good idea we had is gone downhill a little bit now that we have to buy 3 presents.
Yes,
but anyway,
I think it's fastly getting out of control.
As long as we don't have to buy 3 separate tablets, it's okay. Another quick parenting fail from me that happened, I can't remember if it's this week or last week, but it ties quite heavily into our episode today, chatting about renting, because in our current house, we don't have a downstairs toilet.
No.
And so when Lily goes on the potty downstairs, I have to carry the potty upstairs to the toilet to dispose of it.
And we even have quite a clever potty. You just have to take that the little bit out the middle. Try and carry the whole
But
thing.
I was getting too cocky. I was getting too, I don't know whether I was distracted.
You're rushing around.
I think you were having a nap or something.
Yes.
Something, you weren't there, and I was looking after Lily. So I was trying to be quick. And Lily had been to the toilet. She'd done a wee. I think she'd done a poo in the potty as well. And I was like, you stay there, Lily, and I'll just go get rid of this. So I was like, trotting up the stairs, and I tripped up the stairs, and I was like, ugh. So not only did I spill some of this on the carpet, but it splashed right in my face. And I think you heard me from like,
I did.
I was like, swore halfway up the stairs, and you're like, are you all right?
I was like, are you okay? Like, I thought he'd hurt himself, and he was like, I've put pee in my face.
I've just thrown Lily's wee in my face.
Yeah.
And I was like, great. This is great.
It did make me laugh. Like the kind, loving wife I am.
There you go. Lesson learnt and my parenting fail.
So when you're going up the stairs, be careful.
Yeah, got to be careful. Got to be careful. This is why I want a downstairs toilet. Oh, dear.
You say that, though. I still think one of us would manage somehow to still fall over.
Yeah, it's true.
Guessing it maybe even it was just another room away.
Yeah. But there we are. There's some stories for you this week. Get in touch if they are relatable. We'd love to hear from you if you've had similar experiences. Or, what not. Give us a ring and get in touch.
Give us a ring?
Sounded good. No, don't do that. You don't have our phone number, so don't do that.
And if you do, it'll be a bit weird.
I won't pick up anyway if it's a random number.
No, it's true, he won't.
No. But anyway, message us, do something. There's all the stuff in the description down below. And stay tuned till the end of the episode and we'll share some parenting stories or comments or things sent in by listeners. Avoid looking at your bank balance and let's jump into some conversation today on our topic all around parenting when you're renting or if you don't own your own house or, all that stuff. And shall we start with our kind of story of where we're up to? If you're a long-time listener, you'll know we've mentioned in previous episodes that we've been looking to buy a house. And we've been renting here in Harrogate for the last
4 years?
5 years? Something like that.
Yeah.
It was
somewhere between 4 and 5 years.
It was just before the pandemic we moved in.
Yeah.
It's intended to be kind of temporary, as we hoped we would buy.
Sooner.
I think a lot of our generation do struggle to get on the housing market.
Yeah, I think it's much more commonplace now than it used to be.
It's a common difficulty. Even more difficult now we've got kids. So we've been house hunting for 4 years, basically.
I'd say a lot of it's been inactive at house
yeah.
hunting. And originally we were looking in the Harrogate area and it was too expensive.
And then more recently, we have had several houses that we've put offers in on over the last few years and never made it very far.
Oh.
Our most recent one has made it furthest.
Oh yeah, we got really close.
And we got to the point where, we were talking to Lily about it. And I can't remember what we've mentioned on previous podcasts, but we were getting a bit more certain that we would move.
We were really close to closing on the house. Fortunately, for personal reasons for the sellers, in the end, they couldn't go through with it.
They've pulled out, so understandable circumstances, but it means we're back to square one.
Yeah. But I kept being positive, at least it wasn't us. There was nothing we did wrong.
Yeah. Frustrating, but yeah.
And I just feel like it means at least we can go through the process again and it will be successful.
Yeah. Oh dear, going on. It's a challenge. Fortunately, I don't know, Lily hasn't really brought it up again. I'm not quite sure.
I think she thinks it's like a I was going to say a relative idea. I don't even know if that makes sense. She just thinks at some point in the future there'll be a new house.
A more of an abstract concept.
Yes, which is fine because hopefully that is what will happen.
Yeah.
And obviously now it's been delayed a bit because we want to wait till the baby's born till we start actively looking.
It's not a great time to be trying to house hunt when you've got a newborn.
Yeah.
But anyway, all this to say is, we're currently in rented accommodation and we felt like it was a good topic to talk about because there's things that are challenges, there's things that are positives and negatives. And I don't know whether it's particularly unique or really commonplace, but either way, it might be a good kind of discussion starter for the podcast and for you guys to get involved with. Shall we kick off with some positives? What would you say, Emma? What's the best thing about parenting when you're in rented, or more broadly, when you don't own your own house?
I think one of the positives is if there's a really big problem in the house, and I know sometimes it takes some chasing up, it's not you paying for the fixing the cost. So when we moved in here, I think I was pregnant with Lily at the time.
Yeah.
We had a huge leak that came through the ceiling.
Yeah, massive leak.
And I think, goodness, if at that stage, we'd just moved into a new house and that had been a huge cost.
Yeah.
I know that's why people get insurance, but I still don't. I know a lot of insurance.
And just the stress of having to organise that, the sense of you can just kind of contact your landlord or estate agent
And if they're good, I know a lot of people have rubbish about them. They will fix it. And they were very good because it was a emergency. They were good at getting it done.
Yeah.
It's almost you get to test out an area without being totally sold on it. So it's like kind of a good tester without committing.
Especially with our jobs, we have flexibility to move kind of
Yeah.
anywhere we need to. And so we are, we do look at kind of just going into, we were in Cumbria before in quite a rural part, and we kind of just picked Harrogate out of a hat. And we're like, well, that seems nice. Why don't we go there? That does change how we're kind of looking at everything, and renting provides you a way to kind of...
Try things out.
Okay, how about this then? So that's kind of about, that would apply to anyone who's renting or doesn't own their own home. But in terms of parenting, there's also a sense of, I don't feel too bad. I mean, there's a double-edged sword to this, but like when you've got toddlers and babies, ultimately you do kind of make a mess, and there's things, there's wear and tear that come with having kids in a house. That's just natural. And like, to some extent, I don't know how I would feel if we owned the stuff. I don't feel too bad because we don't own the stuff.
I know what you mean.
Our carpet has deteriorated. And I don't feel too bad because we didn't pay for it.
True. I think I know there's still a pressure to look after the house, but I think that's the same pressure we'd have in our own home. Does that make any sense? Like,
I'm really fascinated to know when we do get our own house, when we have bought stuff, paid for new carpets or whatever, or, we've painted the walls. How much that will change, for me personally, my psychology of like whether I get more or less upset when Lily, makes a mark on the wall or drops something on the carpet. Like, I don't know.
We've been pretty lucky, really. Lily is very clumsy, but she's never drawn on the walls or anything.
Yeah.
So I was thinking with another child, maybe it'd be a lot more stressful renting.
Yeah, true. We have spent 5 years paying rent that's just disappeared. That's not gone anywhere. And also, when we do move, we will likely need to then fork out for a load of furniture that we don't own.
When my sisters are getting new stuff, they're like, would you like me to keep this for when you eventually buy a house? And I'm like, yes, please. So my dad has like a garage. I think he's got some white goods in there now ready to go.
Right, okay. Yeah.
just so we don't have to buy brand new ones when we eventually do move.
Let's talk about that then, like white goods. So this is one of the downsides for me. Like, I think both of us, we would desperately like a dryer.
Oh, we'd love a dryer.
But like, we've got nowhere to put it. And it's not like, I don't know how we can do it. Like, alterations are tricky because we don't own the house. We can't make space. Like we've already said, we would love a downstairs toilet. Like, I think
you can't
there are
add that.
creative ways we probably could find to do it if we owned this house.
Yeah.
But we don't, so we can't, go around making massive alterations to install some.
And I think we're both quite arty, so it's annoying. You can't change much.
Yeah, definitely. And we've been discussing this a lot recently because our house prospects have fallen through, that we were getting so excited in our heads at the idea of a house that we could make our own.
Yeah.
And I don't think either of us had maybe kind of properly registered how much that was affecting our mental health here. That
we hadn't made an effort to make it.
That we would love to do those things and we hadn't done them, and that every day that kind of made us a little bit sad.
Yes.
And that actually looking back, we probably could have done those things.
Yeah.
So, for example, I don't know whether maybe we need the permission of our landlord, but I know you can do things like paint walls and things if we then put them back to their original condition before we leave. I know that is a possibility. Same with, pictures and hooks and nails and walls. But we've avoided all that because we always saw this as a temporary place to live.
Yeah.
And then it suddenly dawned on us well, maybe we should have just done all that. Maybe we should have done it because it would have made us happier in the now.
And it's true. Our attitude has changed now slightly. So we were holding off buying some new stuff, being like, well, wait till we move.
Yeah.
Especially because I've been in a nesting phase. Poor Elliot's had to try and stop me.
Yeah.
I need an output.
A project.
Yeah, something to make me feel like I'm getting ready for the baby. But
this is the flip side of this thing with, we've begun to put a little bit more effort in, but then it's how much do you put in? Because
Yeah.
this is a rented place. It's not ours. It's not going to be our forever home or even our home for a long time. So,
Yeah.
you know, it feels almost wasted to put money, resources, time into sprucing up somewhere that we're going to move out of. Like, we hope.
Yeah.
In the short term.
Yeah.
And it's just then frustrating because it's like, how much, what, I don't know. Yeah. Do you live for now or do you plan for the future? And where do you put your money? And
Yeah. Just saying.
It's a very depressing episode. I'm sorry. Right. Let's get on to more things that are bad. We don't have a great experience with our letting agency in terms of the upkeep of our place.
Yeah. I think this is commonplace, so you really have to bug them to get stuff done.
Yeah. And so we do live in a house where everything is kind of bodged.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go as far as to say it's falling apart.
And it's like, compared to some horror stories I've heard,
Yeah. It's pretty
there's
decent.
nothing like
Yeah.
dangerous.
Yeah.
Because I know, like, you see other people's stories and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, they're not that bad. But first, it's just frustrating because you do have to chase them up all the time. It's never like, oh, can you do this? And then it's done.
Yeah.
It's like, can you do this? Oh, I sent a message before.
And everything's been done, like, so on the cheap. Like, there were new carpets when we moved in, but they've been installed so, like, poorly. Like, they come up everywhere. And like, just, we've got a porch on the back of our house, which is like a wooden lean-to that's basically falling down.
Yeah.
Like, the door fell off.
It did. They have replaced the door now.
So we asked them to do something about this. And they, our neighbours have said it's been like this for years.
Yeah.
And basically, for ages, it's needed it to be knocked down and to put a new thing. Because it's just not, whatever. So what did they do? They've put a new wooden door on it and they've painted it black.
It's made all the difference.
Yeah. I mean, the door now, the wood has swollen with the winter weather
and it won't close.
And it now won't because the whole thing's lopsided because it's falling apart.
Yeah.
I mean, they've just stuck a brand new door in it and the door doesn't close.
Yeah.
Ah, dear.
There's a lot of little problems where it's just that everything's done. Whereas, if it was your own house, you'd go, be like, well, I'm going to
We'd do it properly.
Yeah. And I'm like, we probably wouldn't spend a fortune, but we wouldn't use the cheapest thing. We'd be like, well, we're going to have to live with this. So let's do,
Yeah.
a better option.
Yeah.
But...
And it just means that we keep getting more and more problems because, they never address underlying causes.
Yes,
like, we had a bit of damp and mold in our living room, and we know from our neighbours that there's a underlying cause issue of all the properties along our street.
And you've got to basically move where this breeze block is or something.
I'm not very techie about this, but some breeze block that's been installed too low, and
needs to be put
that
higher.
front corner of the properties, they all get kind of damp coming through. And they did come and they sorted out the damp. They replastered the wall. But they've not fixed the underlying cause of the problem.
But I'm just hoping we'll have moved before that'll be a problem.
Yeah.
There's a lot of our things we're like, well, hopefully we'll move before that crops up again.
It's not our problem. Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff like that where we're like, well, as long as it doesn't happen in the next 2 years, hopefully we'll have moved, it'll be fine.
And a big complaint of mine that fits into this category is our horrible wooden countertop in the kitchen.
Oh yeah, it's horrendous.
Like, I would love to have just any. Doesn't have to be granite or marble, but any countertop that isn't made of wood.
Yeah. If anyone's thinking of getting countertop made of wood, don't do it.
It requires a lot of upkeep to make sure it remains watertight.
Yeah.
And we've got wood all around the splash zone of our sink.
Yeah.
And it's not been kept watertight.
No, it's just rotting away slowly.
So it's basically completely rotten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's only so much we can do really to try and stop it.
Yeah.
So
it depresses me every time I look at it.
Oh. It's when I keep being like, well, just get something, let's just cover it.
Yes, it's what we do with a lot of the problems in our house. We'll just cover them up.
Cover it. I don't have to think about it.
Hold your horses past Elliot and Emma. This is future Elliot and Emma. here to insert our little segment in the middle. We're very proud of this little podcast project that we run. We'd love to have your support, and we're very thankful to you listening. But if you want to engage with us, please do in all the places on social media, on YouTube, Instagram, in our Facebook group chat, or on Discord. You can find all the links down below. We'd love this to be a conversation, not just us shouting into the void. Our aim is to build a little community so we can support one another, and we can't really do that without some engagement from you. So please do, and if nothing else, do share the podcast with your friends and other people. If you have a partner that doesn't listen, go bug them now and say, listen to this podcast. It's really good. As always, we do like to pop in here that, we are Christians, and we're doing this in partnership with the Kairos movement, which is a thing within the Methodist Church. Yep. And, just to be upfront about that, we're part of those things to explore faith and spirituality. So even if you don't define yourself as Christian, or, that puts you off, then maybe within the stuff that we're doing, there's something that might be of interest to you. Or if not, just come and chat with us about parenting. We try to keep all the religion pretty light. We're not particularly religious ourselves. We might be Christians, but we have our own struggles and challenges and questions and doubts and everything with church, the institution, with God, with all sorts of things. How do you view God, Emma?
In what way?
I don't know. I often think people assume I'm talking about a big man in the sky.
Oh yeah, I imagine I don't even know if I imagine a being.
Yeah.
I imagine more of like a floaty thing.
Like a spirit?
If I was to imagine them, I'd imagine them almost like some kind of glittery cloud or something that goes from one place to another.
Oh, that's nice. I always come back to nature and ecosystems in the same way like a tree is connected to a plant. They're not the same thing. They look different, but we're all kind of connected through nature. And in the same way, I see that we're all kind of connected through God, and that we might not see a God. It's the connection that matters. We are connected to each other, and that our ultimate being is about being connected and loving, and is how I conceptualize God.
Just as an entity that goes through everything.
Yeah, just not an entity, not a being, just it's the connections between us all, like a big flowing network through an ecosystem.
Yeah. You know what it makes me think of?
Yeah.
Mushrooms.
Yeah, exactly. Just like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I watched
We
a
are all
documentary
mushrooms.
about mushrooms recently.
If you'd like to learn more about that, chat more with us about that, or are interested in the kind of spirituality side of things as well as parenting, whether you're a parent or not, then we do more of that through the Kairos movement, and you can find out more about what I'm up to in my work, or different ways to engage with some of that if it's interesting, if you're open-minded. Find all that stuff out on our webpage, which is www.kairosmovement.org.uk/Don't Wake the Baby. Right, time to get back to past Emma.
Past Emma and Elliot. Back over to you guys.
On with the conversation.
I would say I've grown rather attached to our little house now.
Yeah,
so I think I will be sad when we do move.
Well, we've been here a while.
Yeah. And our garden is beautiful. I must say,
Yeah.
for having a rented thing, we've a lovely garden.
It has kind of scuppered us a bit, because it means when we're looking at houses...
When we're looking at properties, we're like, oh, but the garden's not as good.
Yeah.
And I have to forget, but we'd own this.
Yeah.
And that would be better.
Yeah.
But because our garden now, it's really long, it's a nice
It's big
garden.
Yeah, it's big. I mean, it's not very toddler friendly in the sense that it's very wild.
Yes.
Very uneven. There's lots of dangerous things in it. Once again, we would probably put a load more effort into rectifying all that if we owned it. But there's not a massive incentive to completely revamp the garden when we don't own it.
But I'm saying the garden is nice for most rented. I would just want to say we are quite privileged. It's quite a nice house and a nice garden.
If you don't own your house, but you know you're going to be there for so long,
yes.
you know the time scale you're going to be there. And this could apply to all sorts of places, professions where you go somewhere for a set time. When we were at university, we knew we would be there for a year, or we knew that we'd be there for a maximum 3 years. We had a kind of time scale on, what it looked like. For us, we're constantly in that weird limbo of wanting and trying to move and not knowing how long we will be here for.
Yeah.
So we've encountered this problem now where it's Lily's going to be coming up to school age next September. And what do we do about things like that? Because we don't know where we're going to be.
Yeah.
we don't know how far in the future to plan for being here.
And we know from like our experience of getting very far in the process of almost buying a house, it does take a while.
Yeah.
Like it can take a few months for everything to go through.
And that affects all sorts of things. Like the last episode we did was all about making friends as parents and, you know, connecting with other mums and dads we meet in our locality. And that's a challenge when we're not sure how long we're going to be here for. It makes you sometimes a bit less invested in the local community because we're not sure where we're going to end up.
Yeah, it's true.
So yeah, just, you know, throwing that out there as loads of other kind of challenges that pop up through
It's true.
this scenario that we found ourselves in. You know, I've had to come to terms with accepting just life for what it is, you know, like that things don't always turn out the way you want it to. Because I had this grand vision, I think, beforehand that we would, you know, we would buy a house, then we would have kids.
Yeah.
And we would be settled. You know, I had an order in my head in which I thought we would do things. And we have not done that.
No.
And I've had to just kind of
accept that.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. And I think this is hard when we've come from a generation where, and this is maybe because we both came from middle class families, but like, so my family always owned their own home. Which then you just assume that's what you'll do.
So this has brought us quite naturally into a segment that is coming back. What time is it, Emma? It's the 90s.
I paused and then remembered.
I like that it throws you every time.
Does.
It's true, we don't bring this segment in every
No,
episode.
this is what I was thrown. And then I thought, wait a minute, I remember this.
It doesn't apply to every topic, but this one it does apply to, where we take a look back at what things were like when we were growing up, predominantly in the 90s and early 2000s, and what's changed and what's different about the context of our upbringing and our children's upbringing now.
True, yeah.
So go on then, tell us a bit more about your situation.
so-
We all know you grew up on a
Grew up
farm.
on a farm, and my dad basically inherited his home.
Yeah.
We always had a house that was ours that we lived
Yeah.
in.
So that it is different, and I think probably similar for a lot of farmers that they've not been through the process of buying a house
No,
because
so the
it is a
first-
generational family
the
home.
first house Dad bought was when he retired,
Yeah.
because then obviously he had to move out. So
It's really interesting for your dad, and I suppose for you as well, that, you know, that was a family home that they lived in.
yeah, generationally.
You know, you grew up in the same home your entire childhood.
Yeah.
And for your dad, I know there was, he did move, like, there were other houses, weren't there? Did he grow up in that house?
He grew up in that house.
Oh, okay.
But they built another house on the other side, a bit of the farm.
Yeah, again, quite a common practice. Yeah. I wasn't sure which house he'd grown up in.
No, he grew up in
So
that one.
he spent his whole life in that house.
Yeah.
Wow. I think, you know, sometimes I don't always recognise what that must be then to have sold the farm at that point.
True.
That a house he's grown up in, that he's worked his entire life.
As a child, I got confused because obviously Nana's house was the other house.
Yes.
So when she told me stories, I just imagined them all in her house.
Yeah, so I think that's what was confusing me just now. Yeah.
But obviously then, like, when she was saying about how when she used to be in our farmhouse and what she used to do, in my head I was like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, no, of course. That makes sense. You'd have been in a bigger house. You wouldn't have been in this small house. But I would say we weren't wealthy. So it's not dissimilar from what the estate agents do here. Like, everything was kind of bodged. Nothing was, like, done to, like... I mean, Mom tried her best. She got decorators in and stuff. But because we didn't have... Everything had to go back into the farm. We didn't have a lot of money to go, oh, we'll fix it, you know, and get a professional in. It'd be like, well, what can Dad do? To make this work.
So it's a good point, and probably one for the positive column, isn't it? About if you don't have the money to, you know, like, what do you do if there's something goes wrong and you don't have the, and there's a temptation also to save as much money. You kind of just do bodge stuff or do stuff yourself. You don't get professionals in. And so in that sense, renting, maybe, you know, having a landlord or an agent that sorts all that out for you, you might end up in a nicer house.
Because Elliot can remember when he used to visit, if it rained a certain way, we'd always have a leak.
Yeah, we chatted a little bit about this in our episode about North and South and our different upbringings. I was always very impressed that your dad had managed to do all these things.
Oh,
that,
yeah,
like,
he was very good, really. Like,
I don't know.
self-taught, tried anything.
I don't know how legal it all was,
Yeah.
but like doing all the electrics and you know, all sorts of stuff in the house and building barns and...
Well, even in the sheds, like, he'd done most of the electric stuff.
Yeah,
It's
very
like,
impressive.
Yeah.
Building all the pens and...
Well, that's what he's very excited for when we move, because he loves a project.
Well, both our dads
Yeah.
are like really keen to do stuff, aren't they?
They are.
Yeah, yeah. And again, it's a little bit of a shame because I think they both would have been loved to be so involved in helping us move, in helping us make a house our own. And, you know, just naturally because it has taken longer, it means our parents are older, and, you know, it means they probably won't be as involved as they might have been 5-10 years ago. But yeah, so anyway, for me, it's a different context because you may know, if you're a long-time listener, you know, my dad was a Baptist minister. So I grew up as a child of someone who worked for the church. And if you're not familiar, like a vicar gets a vicarage. You know, we get given a house as part of that. And so we had a manse that we grew up in. And that's, I don't know what you think of, like the stereotype with that, but not like, you know, when I think of a vicarage, I think of like Miss Marple times, you know, but it wasn't like a grand old house next to a big church, but like these...
Yes, because they're not Anglicans.
More typically just a bog standard house that just happens to be owned by the church.
I will say, though, most vicarages I've known have been very nice.
They're still, yeah. Yeah, maybe
that was probably 10, 12 years ago when I last was in one, but they were still pretty pretty nice.
But it does mean, along with quite a few of our friends and colleagues and listeners who are involved in the church, and we have a lot of minister friends and who are in houses that they don't own. So it's a bit different from renting, but, you know, I grew up in a house that my parents didn't own.
Yeah.
Or at least, you know, partly. Initially, we were in our own house and then later in our own house. But for the most part in the middle, we were in a house owned by the church. Thinking about it from Lily's perspective now, she has no concept of the fact that we don't own this house. No. And I don't think we should worry too much.
Oh, yeah, about the effect, yeah.
And I don't, you know, maybe it's just my parents didn't put as massive a stamp on the house as we would like to, but... You know, you could still do stuff in that context. I don't know what it's like in other churches and things, but for us, you know, we could make changes to the house as long as the church kind of agreed to it.
Yeah, I think, and a lot of people get almost a budget towards their manse for what they can do when they first move in.
We don't really have another experience to compare it to.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? I can't imagine having one house that was our entire, you know, I don't have a home that I think of that's like, that was my entire childhood, because we lived in 3 different houses.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us have this sense of like, if we think of our childhoods, there isn't just one house. Whereas for you have one house that was your home.
Yeah, I actually think mine's very rare though, because other than other farmers' kids, I guess.
It'll be an interesting challenge. You know, we'll have to talk about it on another podcast when eventually we do manage to buy a house and move, to talk about, you know, how we navigate that with Lily, with children, with 2 children, and how we communicate that to them, how they settle with it. I mean, we are kind of grateful, I think, to some extent, that we're not ending up doing it in, you know, real quick. You know, it's a lot of change. We were worried at one point that we would have a new baby and immediately be moving.
And then Lily obviously would be changing nurseries, and I was like, that is so much change.
There'd be so much change for her all at once. So
we have been quite relieved in some ways that it fell through. She's only going to have maybe one change at once, hopefully.
It's staggered a little bit.
Yeah.
Because moving is a big deal, and I remember it being a big upheaval for me when we moved.
Well, I remember my sister Becky, once again in France, they lived in a tiny little flat they were renting before they bought their house. And I can't remember how old Nassie was, and he was heartbroken.
Yeah.
And Becky was going, we're going from this tiny flat to like a beautiful home.
Yeah.
But of course, to him, the flat was his house. So he was really upset. And it took for him a while to get used to the idea that this was now his home.
I mean, to you, when you were growing up, again, maybe it's different because presumably you shared a room with at least one of your sisters, whereas I had my own room. But like, did you, because you owned your house, did you like personalise your rooms at all?
We weren't allowed to, well, this is because my parents, we didn't paint the walls, but we did a thing where like ever so often, Mum would like put a little bit of money aside and you could decorate your room. So you could change like the theme, like the curtains and the bedding and maybe some ornaments, which I'm quite keen to do because that was quite fun.
Me and my parents, we didn't really do that. And I don't know that was particularly, that wasn't because we didn't own our house. And I don't think that was because of money.
No.
It was just because it's how we were.
Yeah, well, you might not have cared, really.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just never something that, it was never suggested to me, and it never occurred to me that I would decorate my room. I don't know. Is it a girl or boy thing? I've no idea. I was an only child, so I have nothing really to compare it against.
Yeah, to go off.
I would say, if people who know my parents at all, they're the sort of people that you give them like a theme or an idea and they run with, like, you've got to be careful. If you say you like anything, they'll really like go to town on that.
Yeah.
So I remember as a kid being like, what's your favorite color? And at the time I said red. So I did end up with a bedroom where everything was red. Like, we didn't paint the walls, but
That's sweet, though.
like my bed was red, my desk was red, my wardrobes were red, everything was red, my duvet covers were red, because Mum was like, well, you like red, and now we know everything you own is red. And like, even by the time I went to university, everything I was sent with to university was red.
Yeah.
It's just, looking back, it seems so strange. And
You committed then, you commit to the
I feel
colour.
like by the time I was a teenager, I was like, I would really like I'd like to change this. I would like a different theme, but like, it was too late by that point.
Too late, it'd already gone.
That was it. But like, you as a quadruplet, you've talked before about you had different colours with the four of you that were your colour. Did you have a thing like that where your items had to be that colour or not?
No, it was purely, we had clothing that when we were little, it was clothing mainly, so people knew who was who. So they were like, oh, well, Emma would always be in purple or green. And then like Becky will always be in blue, Laura will be in yellow, and Kirsty will be in red. And that's how you could tell.
How come your three sisters had one colour and you ended up with two colours?
So originally I was purple, but we had a childminder called Sheila. And I was her favourite, apparently, and her favourite colour was green. So she slowly started getting me, I think, a lot of green things. And that then became, like, my other colour.
Okay. Is purple or green your favourite colour?
I do like purple.
Yeah.
Now I'm starting to question whether it was because I was brainwashed.
Because it's fascinating, because other than the fact that, I work for the Methodist Church whose colour is red.
Yes.
I'm not a big fan of the colour red.
No, I do quite like purple. I also quite like green,
Yeah.
But I would say, I don't know if I have like, when people say, what's your favourite colour? We both like blues, really.
I've leaned these days more heavily into like earthy colours.
Yes.
So I'm quite a big fan of like...
You're quite autumnal in your colour choice.
Yeah, like browns and greys and like nice muted kind of mustards and oranges.
You can tell if you've looked at our podcast.
Basically the podcast colours. Because I designed it, I picked all my favourite colours.
Yeah. And it's true, I've got quite into ochre.
Yeah. There we go. To kind of cap off this conversation, shall we touch a little bit on what, when we get a house, what are the kind of amendments and things you'd like to do? What are the big things, let's give the listener an idea of, obviously there's things like painting walls, but what are the things that we can't do now because we rent?
I want a playroom.
Okay.
Which I know this is a privilege, so we might not end up with one. But
we could find a little alcove.
Yeah.
Or something.
And I really like the idea where you can paint part of the wall with like that black chalk paint. And then they can draw in chalk on that bit of the wall.
Yeah, you've told me this before.
And I've seen other things where you can get like mirrors in the shape of little dinosaurs that you can put on the wall for them to look at.
Yeah.
I'm quite ambitious because I always think that'd be such a fun playroom to be in.
I do worry about encouraging kids to draw on the wall.
Yes, I did worry about that. But I thought if they know it's like chalk and that's the only bit of the wall they draw on. Because let's face it, by the time we move, Lily will be old enough to know better.
It's true. I mean,
it's only the little one.
This is the thing, isn't it? Like, in our heads, we've been imagining for quite a few years that we're looking for a house that would be suitable for little children.
Yes, yeah.
And
one of them will be little.
Yeah. We also do. We're a bit wacky. If we were really let loose, we would both like paint the outside of our house.
Oh, we would.
Really wacky colours.
Yeah.
You're really
both like the Up house.
Yeah, from the Pixar film Up. And I know like it won't be. That's like a very American style house that you can do that with, but
and ours is likely to be like red brick.
Yeah, I don't know what you can do with that, but we will find a way. You would love to put like a really brightly coloured door
Yes.
on the house?
Yeah. I've said to Elliot, I really want a yellow door, and
Yeah.
he said he doesn't want a yellow door.
I'm really into having like themed rooms.
Yeah, these are our hopes and dreams.
Yeah.
Then we'll move eventually, and we'll be like, we're exhausted. We can't possibly think of doing anything.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it'd be interesting to know from people who do own their houses. I mean, maybe the problem is once you have kids, you just don't have time to do anything.
Well, I said my sister Kirsty's constantly doing a house up.
Yeah.
So I've already said to her, when we move, I'm going to basically hire her to just do stuff for us. So, Elliot, do we have any comments from our listeners?
We've had a few people message in some stuff relating to this topic today. A few people who are in similar situations where they don't own their own house and, just feeling frustrated and hate not being able to make their house their own, like things like painting walls and whatnot. Very similar to kind of everything we've mentioned, really. But yeah, some of my colleagues and friends who are ministers who are in church houses, and again, that kind of not sure how long they'll be there for and don't know how much time, resources, emotional kind of stuff to pump into the house, whether they might leave in a couple of years, and just all that. Yeah, we've touched on all of that in the episode, but yeah, it seems like people do have very similar experiences. And again, saying like when you have little kids, it's like a challenge to find the time to do all this stuff. So there's things people would like to do and they might one day get round to it, but we're not sure if we ever will. That's very relatable.
I remember growing up, my older sister Charlotte, because we've got quite a big age gap between me and my quadruplet sisters and my two older sisters. And I remember they always said things that were like half painted. Like the bathroom was half done for an awful long time. And then like another room was like, it'd been painted up to a point and then not finished because obviously they had 3 kids. Like it was a lot of work. And so I always remember that growing up, that it was like an almost completed project a lot of the time.
Another comment we've had in was someone saying they were really happy that on our Instagram stories I'd posted about I'd had a day out with Lily. If you'd listened to our last episode, a recent episode, the funny stories one with outtakes, we mentioned in the parenting achievement segment about how Lily had rapidly turned on me and was not my greatest fan at the moment. And that does seem to be turning around.
Does quite quickly, actually. She seems to be getting a bit better.
So thank you to everyone who's commented on that story on social media. And we're saying it was kind of heartbreaking hearing how Lily was not my biggest fan. And I don't know. It is what it is. I roll with it. It is a bit, it was a bit of a challenge at the time, but it's just like all parenting, isn't it? You just kind of, I don't know, get on with life. Nothing lasts forever.
Yeah.
Right, well, thank you for joining us in today's episode, down under the ground in our little burrow with the bunnies.
Forgot we were underground.
You're not a big fan of this one? This imaginary place?
Well, I don't want to be sat in dirt.
Oh. But you're a big fan of, like the Hobbit hole one.
It's very clean Hobbit hole.
Oh, okay. Well, it's a clean little bunny's, I was going to say hovel, but that's not going to convince you. It's a very clean and tidy and cozy little burrow made by a little cute rabbit that goes...
But you said I had to sit on the sofa that was made of mud.
Oh, well, it's got a lovely blanket over it. It's very soft and snuggly.
It doesn't sound warm.
The burrow is the internet, and the little cozy sofa is the podcast, and we are the little rabbits, and we sit there with our little friends, our little nature friends, and we go squeak, 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 squeak.
Do rabbits squeak?
It's getting a bit crazy. It must be the end of the episode.
It must be.
Thank you. Good night, goodbye, good morning, and sleep well. God bless.
Don't wait till